All right. I wanted to stop making these videos, but I'm having a really hard time trying to stop making these videos. I can't stop making these student loan videos. So what I decided to do instead was I decided that what I was going to do was I was going to make a video specifically to focus on degrees that you should absolutely avoid. Specifically, in this story, and I'll provide you a link to it, you can read it all, 20 most useless college degrees. Now, somebody once told me that before you go into a field or a career, you should get a degree that you know or that you feel that you could see yourself doing for the next 10 to 15 years. I'm an 80s baby. I grew up in the 80s. And the thing about it is I never thought I'd see a situation that we have right now with these gig economy jobs where people are entering and exiting jobs because it's just so convenient for them and they work when they feel like working. The problem is that a 9 to 5 job is what you really need to make sure that you can secure pensions, health care, and a stable salary. Like, for example, during the pandemic, I didn't lose a single dime. Not a single dime. There were people out of work. There were people all over the world who didn't get a paycheck. The only paycheck they had coming in was those stimulus welfare checks. But that they called it a K-shaped recovery. They said that there were some people who they're going to dip a little and they're going to go up, and that's the top part of the K. And then there's people on the bottom who may gain a little bit of money or time, and then they're going to lose it again. They call that the K-shaped recovery. For me, the K-shaped recovery was not a K-shape. I made more money year over year during, 2019 November till about, now. I haven't lost a dime, not a single dime. And the only way you can have that is to make sure that you're in a career where you have a pension that's taken care of, where you don't have to worry about it. It just takes money and it just goes to the pension. Where you have health care that's taken care of. Where you have recession-proof income. Now, not everybody's going to have a job like that. I totally understand that that's too much to ask for everybody to have. So I'm not going to demand that everybody have that. But that's what you're looking for. You're looking to make sure that you can always take care of yourself. So it says for students entering college, there's a variety of degrees and career paths to choose from. Right now, I believe that corporations are actually going to end up having to train most of their future workers. So, for instance, Delta Airlines, American Airlines, some of these airlines are focusing on hiring black female pilots or other minority pilots because they're seeing they want to attract specific minority groups. Like, piloting has traditionally been a white male affair, and it looks like what they're trying to do is they're trying to put black women behind the cockpit controls. That's what they're trying to do. Now, the way I see it is, considering how much flight school costs, most of these aviation institutes, most of the corporations, the airlines, they're going to have to train these people themselves. And they're going to have to do that because most of these people aren't going to want to take out the kind of loans that it's going to take to get an aviation degree. So that means the corporations are going to have to train you themselves, and they're not going to do it for free. They're going to expect you to guarantee them that you're going to work for them for like a minimum of 5 or 6 years, maybe even 10. I don't know. So it appears to me that what may end up happening is we may end up going into a form of indentured servitude. Now, that's always existed. Most civil service jobs, especially if you're within a state, most states will pay for your degree. However, you have to promise that you're going to work for 4 or 5 years. Sometimes it's a teacher who has to work in a shitty school environment, and they give you maybe a little stipend, and they promise that in 5 years your debt is paid. Sometimes you're a cop, and you work in a crappy neighborhood where it's violent, and you have to promise that you're going to work for a certain time. Sometimes it's a law degree, and you have to promise that you'll do pro bono work for a certain amount of time. So where there's a will, there's a way. You're not going to wake up and you're just going to be rich. It's not going to fucking happen. Like the lotto, they still don't know who won that $1.38 billion in the lotto. It ain't going to happen. You have a better chance of getting hit by an asteroid than hitting the mega millions. That's just what it is. Those are your odds. So the reality is you have to say, what kind of job can I see myself doing for the next 10 to 15 years? For some of you, I think the problem is that you try to avoid the hard maths and you try to avoid the hard sciences. Most people, I believe, go into like biology. If they're good with math, they'll go into chemistry and physics. But I think most people try to go into biology because some people may find it interesting and this, that, and other. Now, that's just on the science side. When it comes to math, a lot of people straight up avoid math. They avoid the trigonometry, they avoid the calculus, they avoid the pre-calculus, so they have no intention of going to calculus. And the issue ultimately becomes, that's where it really begins, where we have this divergence between people going in order to get worthwhile degrees and people who are going to college just to get through college with whatever they can get. Therein, to me, lies the problem. So let's continue. I haven't read this beforehand, so let's get into this. Now, here you have them. They're trying to advertise a couple of colleges right here. It says SNHU. That sounds a little too much like Shiba Inu to me. I don't know if I'd want to go there. I don't think I'd want to go there. But Purdue University, what does it say? It says Southern New Hampshire. Isn't like that Bernie Sanders state or something, or is that Vermont? I can't remember. There ain't nothing up there. So the thing about it is a lot of these are these private little schools, and they're trying to get people to come to these little schools in order to keep up their enrollment, in order to make sure that their professors are able to retire and get their pension and to feather their nest before their retirement. So some of these schools, like look at this, Pepperdine. I ain't never heard of no goddamn Pepperdine. What the hell is that? Pepperdine. I'm going to tell my mom I got a degree from Pepperdine. Masters of Arts and Psychology from Pepperdine. What? I ain't going to no damn Pepperdine. And I damn sure ain't going to no Shiba Inu University. That ain't happening. So anyway, useless degrees. Advertising. Number one. I haven't read this. I wanted to read it with you. It says, if you're an advertising major, you may hope to get into digital marketing, e-commerce, or sports marketing. Now, let me just say this. When I was started work, I was working along with a woman who came out of advertising. And she was miserable. First of all, she hated the job. She was miserable. I'm not going to name names, but she wasted most of her life getting these stupid degrees, ended up deep in student loan debt, never had children, old. She was an old cow and couldn't have no kids no more, wasted her youth. And she was absolutely miserable. Absolutely miserable. I hated working with her. I hated it. Like I'm not going to tell you too much about it, but I just hated working with her. She thought that she'd get into advertising, get a degree, and that she'd be rich. She thought she'd be the next huge advertiser. Things didn't work out that well for her. And the reality is some of these degrees, advertising is mostly when you have corporations that want advertising firms, and they're going to hire the firm, not you. They're going to hire the firm, and the firm is where you have to aim to get into with your advertising degree. So if you wanted to be an advertiser, no, you got to get a good advertising background, and then you have to go into a firm. And then the firms will get the contracts, the big contracts. But that money isn't secured. That's not how you secure money. That's just not. Because the thing about it is corporations, they could always say, yeah, we'll just do our own advertising, or we'll come up with our own stuff that you couldn't even think of. Because I know Apple does their own advertising. Apple advertises its own products. And whatever firms they use, they probably use them to a very limited degree. So I just don't see that as stable. But the reason why a lot of people go into advertising is because it allows them to avoid the difficult subjects: science, technology, engineering, and math. Advertising is more like an advanced art degree to some extent. And it even says that right here. Then you got anthropology and archaeology. So first of all, it says if you love history, travel, and being outside, a degree in anthropology and archaeology may sound appealing. However, unless you're ready to spend your time and money receiving a PhD in the field, and that right there is the key. Because see, here's the thing. When they're talking about archaeologists and anthropologists, you basically, the image that should come to mind is like Dr. Indiana Jones or Dr. Grant from Jurassic Park. And even in those movies, one of the recurring themes was how they had trouble getting funding. The government doesn't give out that much money to archaeology or anthropology. Now listen, there are some people who they need for museums to give tours through like the Native American exhibit and to memorize all that information. But the thing about it is they could just as easily hire actors for that. They could hire people to memorize the words, and they don't have to necessarily be doctors or PhDs. They don't necessarily have to. So unless you're the type that really wants to do a lot of field work, digging up bones and stuff like that and hoping you get paid, it even tells you right here that the vast majority of these people spend a large amount of their time as underpaid workers. This is not, being an underpaid intern is just not going to always pay the bills. And it's so funny because it's a recurring theme that these people have trouble making money. Now, if you know that this is a recurring theme, then why would you aim for a degree like that? Now, granted, we do need people in these fields, but we don't need that many of them. Now, then there's art history. It says students who study art history love art and design. Those who pursue a degree in art history typically take classes in art composition as well as multiple classes on history of art through every time period. They may study important artists like Vincent van Gogh or Claude Monet. Now, if you want to teach art teaching is a very difficult field to get into because there's only so many art jobs. It's easier to get a job as a science teacher, math teacher, or something like that. But art is difficult to get into. Let's think about a really famous art teacher right now. Right now in New Jersey, as I made in a video a couple of videos ago, there's an art teacher right now who's having trouble because the parents are attacking her over her personal looks. Now, I feel that it's just a bunch of 2s, 3s, and 4s attacking her because of jealousy. But the thing about it is, here this woman, she worked all her life to get her art degree and go to school to teach these kids art. And she wakes up every morning trying to be a good example for these children. And here you go, you got parents trying to mess with her and take her job. Mostly women, specifically 2s, 3s, and 4s. So it says, all those students with an art history degree are passionate about old art and sculptures. It's hard to make a career out of it. Those who graduate have a wealth of knowledge about art throughout the centuries, but have a difficult time finding a job where they can use the knowledge. Some manage to land a job at an art museum and later down the road may be an art appraiser. But this is one of the most difficult fields to enter. Most places that specialize in art want to see a lengthy resume with plenty of experience. Those who graduate and can't find a career in the field of art are left to look elsewhere. However, their limiting degree doesn't leave them many options. See, and that's another thing. Not only do you want to have a job or a career path where you are certain that you could see yourself doing it for 10 or 15 years. You also need to make sure you have a degree that if you lose your job, you can fall back on it. So if you have a degree, and let's say you also extend that degree, because see, one degree is not enough anymore. That's the biggest problem with student loans and college degrees. The more people who get degrees, the more inflated the degree market becomes. So what ends up happening is one degree is no longer enough. Now you have to get a master's degree. So the problem is, if you're forcing people to get that first degree, that's 4 years of their life. But then you force them to get that master's degree, that's another 2, possibly 3 years of their life. So that means that by the time they actually start adulting, they're damn near 30 years old. Maybe even 1 master's degree. For me, the sweet spot was 2 master's degrees. So here I went to what? I graduated from college 2005. Then I graduated to first master's in about 2007. And then I graduated with the next one because I took some time off until I got into the next program. But I think I got the next one by about 2017, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, this is a considerable amount of time that it takes. Communications. It says first of all, communications, it's like, listen, that's not a degree you should be aiming for, but a lot of people take it for whatever reason. Communications majors study the science behind communication. They learn how to make communication more accessible to all while promoting good communication methods. You already know that's bullshit. If you're interested in communications, you may take classes related to oral and visual rhetoric, as well as classes that help you learn how to best promote your message. Communications is a field that is so broad, there is no specific focus of the degree. While this may sound useful, it actually makes getting a job after college more difficult. Those with a communication degree commonly pursue jobs in fields like journalism, marketing, and business administration. However, those who are interested in one of those fields are better off getting that specific degree. Many of the jobs that communications majors may apply for after graduation are related to specific majors. This makes getting a job with broad communications degree more difficult. Computer science. Now, let me just say this. The problem that I see with computer science, I've seen for like the last 20 years. This country has outsourced so many of our tech jobs that most companies would rather hire 10 Indians for the price of one American, or maybe even 10 Chinese for the price of one American. And then you see more and more of these jobs going over to the Philippines, because a lot of Filipinos get computer science degrees too. And the thing about them is they work cheap and they speak English. That's why whenever you dial most of these banks or whatever, you get transferred either to India or the Philippines. And more than likely, you're going to get transferred to the Philippines because Filipinos speak English better than Indian people do on average, from what I've seen. So anyway, the biggest problem I see with communication, let's get right down to it. It says, if you graduate a computer science degree, you may find yourself unsure of where to go to next. In order to get a job, you may require higher education in your field or more specific education and focus in an area like coding or cybersecurity. You may instead find yourself looking for a job with your current education experience, which may prove unsuccessful. There's too many computer science. What I remember specifically when I graduated from college, everybody wanted to be Bill Gates. Because you got to remember, I went to college 99, and by that time, that was when, Bill Gates was the big talk of the town. Everybody wanted to be Bill Gates. Everybody felt that they could do the same thing that he did. Everybody was trying to get these MBAs and these computer science degrees. For the most part, a computer science degree just isn't enough. Creative writing. Okay, you already know that's bullshit. First of all, the people who really make the money with creative writing are people who already have jobs and they write books and then they sell the books and they advertise the books. What does it say? Creative writers truly have skills that are desirable for those who go on to publish stories and novels. However, their education is narrow and specific. During their education, students in a creative writing major learn how to tell a story with colorful words. I can do that. Their writing is flowing and descriptive. Ooh. If you're interested in creative writing and hope to publish a book someday, consider majoring in a similar field like journalistic writing. Let me tell you something. From what I've seen, and I've seen some of this trash that they sell on the streets that they call romance novels, absolute trash. You don't have to have a creative writing degree to write a goddamn book. In fact, you could tell just about any story and damn near have Siri type the shit out for you, like one of these voice to texts, and you could publish that. It's like usually most people get rich with the books. They don't get rich off of a fucking creative writing degree. Now, I'm not trying to burst your bubble, but I'm just saying, you've been warned. Criminal justice, uh-oh. A lot of students get, and that's another thing. When I was a kid growing up, we believed that doctors and lawyers were rich. That's what we believed when I was a kid. We thought that all doctors and lawyers were rich. It's not until you get older that you realize it ain't true. A lot of students get ideas from TV shows and movies like NCIS or Criminal Minds that they want to study the field of criminal justice. Actors make jobs like detectives and special agents seem attractive and fun. However, the reality of jobs such as these is that they are not only dangerous, because you got to bust down doors and shoot people, or make sure you don't get shot by Pookie or Ray Ray. See, I would never make a good cop because I'd go in blasting every single time. It's like I'd be the next Judge Dredd. And that won't last you long because there's always somebody recording you on a phone. And that's not going to last very long because if it was me, I'd be blowing doors off the hinges and just busting in and shooting anything that moves. And that's not good policing at all. So I would never be good in a job like that. So, criminal justice is something I just never considered. In fact, I believe in the death penalty for most crimes. Murder, rape, and child molestation and everything. I believe in straight up death penalty. So I'm not a good person for these jobs. Like, if you want to hire criminal justice, you're going to have to find people that are level-headed and who've actually gone through all these bullshit courses so that they can come and fuck up our criminal justice system and make it more liberal. Meanwhile, you got these other countries where they just take murderers and rapists, they just kill them. Like, they literally just kill them. But, I'm not, no. I'm no good for that. No, I'm no good for that. Culinary arts. Short story. Before I started college, I was actually a pretty good cook and baker. And my family took me to Johnson & Wales and showed me around Johnson & Wales. And believe me when I tell you, I was not interested in that shit at all. So I did not go to Johnson & Wales. That doesn't mean that I can't cook. That doesn't mean that I can't bake. It's just that I just wasn't interested in culinary arts. You hear these fucking shitty 4-cylinder fart can engines out. You hear this shit? I can't wait till these cars are electric. So anyway, it says if you're truly interested in pursuing a job as a chef, you're likely better off attending a culinary school or trade school to obtain your education rather than attending a college or university for a degree. This will allow you to get more specific training in your field while saving you time and money. And, in order to make culinary arts interesting, look at what they've had to do. They've had to turn culinary arts into TikToks, Facebook, Instagram videos, and they had to basically make it profane using Gordon Ramsay to, come on, look at this fucking steak. This fucking steak is undercooked. Where's the lamb sauce? It's not exciting. Well, that's the problem. See, Gordon Ramsay makes it exciting. I could watch that man make eggs. In fact, the best eggs I ever made, I learned by watching them. I didn't need no damn Johnson & Wales. Listen, if Gordon Ramsay just made YouTube videos where all he did was teach you recipe after recipe, which he kind of does, and all you had to do was watch him do it and then just do what he does, I ain't got to go to fucking culinary art school. What are you kidding? Now, granted, listen, I understand that we need bakers. I understand we need people to make really nice birthday cakes and all that stuff and pies and all that to sell for special occasions. Yeah, I understand all that, but no, it just wasn't for me. It's like, listen, I can make a cheesecake that'll put you in the hospital, and that's I can make my hot wings, my cheesecake. I can make pretty much any pasta I want to be able to make. I can make steaks. I can, it's like, I didn't need to take out student loans to learn some shit I can watch on YouTube. If I need to learn how to make something right now, I'll just go on YouTube. Education. At first, this may seem like a highly useful degree. Teaching children is useful, just like the art teacher who I just reminded you about. However, many who enter the field quickly find that this isn't as useful as it sounds. Education majors are required to declare a specialty, such as early childhood, special education, or secondary education. Some who do this are required to get a master's degree in order to practice in their field. Those who stay with a general education degree may find their degree useless after graduation. A preschool won't want them because they aren't certified in early childhood education. Special education won't want them because they also don't have the proper certifications or endorsements. If you're considering becoming an education major, be sure to consider what type of education you want to go into and declare your specialty. Let me stop right there. I had a friend, and before he went to college, I swear to God this happened. I might have told this story before. He asked me, he says, yeah, I want to go to this, I'm not going to name the school. I want to go to this HSBC. So you're talking about him taking out about $30,000 in loans per year. Now, this was back in 1999. And he was like, yeah, I want to go to this school. I want to major in film. First thing I told him was, you know what, maybe you should minor in film, but maybe you should get a teaching license. So this way, just in case, you know, you're not the next Steven Spielberg, maybe you can teach and you can make money in, you know, the Department of Education, right? So naturally, he completely ignores me. He goes away to the school. It's a party school for the most part. Parties his way through school, comes out, and at the ripe age of 42, he is still living in his parents' house. Yeah. Now, had he gotten... Now, as far as this education degree thing comes, the schools specifically want to see content specialty. You can't just get a quote-unquote mathematics degree. No. You have to get either a child, just like it says, you have to get a childhood education or you have to get adolescent education, which means like 7 through 12, grade 7 through 12. So you can either get like K through 5 or 7 through 12. Now, science teachers are obviously always in demand. One thing I've noticed, a lot of ads where they're trying to hire teachers, teaching English as a second language is high demand. If you're a person who can speak English well enough and you know another language, like if you know like Bengali, Hindu, Urdu, what else? Chinese, Korean. Yeah, you can get a job as a teacher pretty easily, especially if you're a math teacher, science teacher, or an English teacher. But here in New York, they don't call it English anymore. They call it, what is it? English language arts, since apparently it's dirty words to call it an English class. When I was a kid and I went to school, it was called English class. English class. That's what it was called. Now it's called ELA or some shit. So the reality is, if you have a second language, if you're bilingual or even trilingual, if you can speak 3 languages, a lot of Africans speak English, Spanish, and French because they come from colonized countries. When I was in China, I knew an African dude who spoke English. He was from New Guinea. He spoke English, French, Spanish, and Chinese because he was learning Chinese. He was in Chinese journalism at Fudan University. So if you're that type of person and you get enough credits to be able to be a teacher and you get the degree to go through teacher training, oh yeah, you can get that job easily. The thing about it is you don't want to take out $500,000 worth of student loans getting a teaching degree. That's just stupid. To get a teaching degree, you should be spending no more than about $30,000 to $35,000 for a bachelor's. And you should be doing well enough to get some level of scholarship to get your first master's. Entrepreneurship. This is the biggest bullshit I've ever seen in my life. Whenever you hear somebody say, like you ask somebody, hey, what do you do for a living? They say they're an entrepreneur, run. Because that's usually a sign that this person's full of shit. I'm sorry, but that's just what it is. Entrepreneurship is like me saying I'm on the welfare system and I don't have a job. It says a degree in entrepreneurship may sound great for those who look to start a business someday, which you absolutely do not need to start a business. However, the degree by itself is one of the most useless degrees. Well, listen, I'm going to leave you the link. You can read it yourself. They just said it for me. Whenever I hear somebody say that shit, listen, let me just say it like this. You know how you know when somebody's full of shit? And you probably experience this in your daily life because you probably know people who bragged about their kids, bragged about people in their family, what they do for a living. If it takes more than like 2 words to tell what you do for a living, something's wrong. Like, for instance, hey, what do you do for a living? I'm a doctor. Boom, 1 word, that's it. What do you do for a living? I'm a teacher. Boom, 1 word, that's it. What do you do for a living? I'm a police officer. Boom, 2 words. I could have just said I'm a policeman. That's it. We know what you do. We know who you are. Let's see. What do you do for a living? I'm a pilot. Boom, that's it. Pilot. What do you do for a living? I'm a construction worker. Okay, 2 words. What you'll probably understand is that the further you get from one word, something's wrong. Like either it's something's wrong, or if you need too many words to explain it, chances are that job is not stable. Like, oh yeah, what do you do for a living? Yeah, I'm a CEO. Okay, how much do you make a year? Okay, because some people call themselves CEOs, but they own their own business, and their own business ain't making money. In fact, it's probably losing money. It gets really, really touchy. Really, really, really touchy there. So my thing is, I'm sorry, I can't. Well, they're telling you right there. This is not my words. This is their words. They say entrepreneurship is bullshit as a degree. Ethnic and civilization studies. Okay, you already know where this is going. Ethnic and civilization studies is a culturally relevant field that may seem to be a good choice at first glance. Given the current state of our nation, ethnic and civilization learners are not only important but essential. No, they're not. No, they're not. However, a sole degree in ethnic and civilization studies may not land you the career you're hoping for. Many who receive jobs after graduation with this degree look for jobs in education, social work, and counseling. However, each of those jobs requires or receives a special degree of its own. Yeah, you're not going to be no goddamn social worker with an ethnic and civilization studies. What are you kidding? While studying ethnic and civilization is important, yeah, when you're in 7th grade, when you're in junior high school, that's when it's important. Those who are interested should consider double majoring in a second degree or using it as a minor to increase their chances of a good job following graduation. Here we go. Fashion design. I was saying in my last video, if Gucci, Prada, Femi, or Versace decided to start a university, you'd have a line of people around the block all ready to sign up for them student loans. They'd go $1 billion in debt and probably have nothing to show for it except some ugly shoes and an ugly jacket. A person who chooses to major in fashion design may have big dreams of beginning their own clothing brand, working as a designer for a major company, or becoming a fashion marketer. However, it's again important to consider the job field for this major. It's difficult to be hired as a fashion designer with a major brand straight out of school, and even more difficult to establish your own brand. You ain't establishing your own brand. What are you kidding? One thing I have noticed is there are children on YouTube, children on Facebook who've actually established their own brands. And these children haven't even gone to college yet. That's terrifying that you would take out loans for this. Film, video, and photographic arts. All I can do is think right away to my friend. He thought that he was going to be the next Steven Spielberg. No, he never became Steven Spielberg. In fact, believe it or not, the first thing I said to him was, maybe you should get a teaching degree. So this way because I have no faith in the film industry. I have no faith in it. Now, granted, there are some people, fuck it. You can shoot I can make a 2 or 3 hour movie on my iPhone. Have nobody else to pay but myself. And if it's interesting enough, I can make a ton of money on YouTube with it. In fact, there are kids who've specifically shot entire movies on phones, iPhone specifically. My friend, he decided that what he wanted to do was he wanted to, go to this college, get a film degree. And then when he came out, he found himself unable to get jobs that were paying what he needed to get paid in order to pay his bills. And what was weird about it was, while here I am shooting videos on iPhone and making money on YouTube, he's spending money for professional photographic equipment and not earning enough money to really pay himself back, much less get out of his parents' house. So that's just the reality of that situation. And sure enough, I told him, I was like, listen, maybe you should have a teaching degree. Because I didn't have any faith in the film industry, I said, yeah, if you get a teaching degree, at least you'll have something to fall back on. What do you think he's doing right now? If you guessed he's teaching, you'd be right. Turns out I was right about that. And I tried to give him the best advice I could give him, and it fell on deaf ears. Oh, well. So, languages. Here we go. Studying languages is a great way to learn about other cultures and prepare for travel to other countries. While there are undoubtedly many benefits to learning multiple languages, the study of languages as a college degree is useless. I'll stop right there. Again, if you are bilingual or you're trilingual or multilingual and you go into the teaching fields, that's a good way to make yourself some serious money, especially if you get a teaching degree in math, science, technology, or even an English license, because what they're interested in is the fact that you can speak multiple languages. As just getting a language degree, it's worthless. To be perfectly honest, if there was one of those little language schools near me right now, which I'm sure I could find one, I would actually go in there and try to learn Russian. Not because I expect to use it, not because I expect to visit Russia, but I'd almost just like to know it just to know it. I started with Mandarin, and I continued with that for like 5 or 6 years. And then there was, what was it? At one point, I said, yeah, maybe I could learn Korean. I started with it for about a couple of days, and I was like, yeah, I don't really feel like doing it, because I had other things to do. That's what it was. But if I were to start learning a new language right now, it'd probably be Russian. Thing about it is I'm not a kid anymore. It's hard for me to pick up new things. Children are best at learning languages. Children are the absolute best. Their brains are sponges. They can absorb way more than an adult can. Now, if I was Brittany Griner and I was locked up in a Russian prison, to tell you the truth, I have nothing else to do. You might as well teach me Russian or give me some books or something, and I'll start learning some Russian. By the time I came out of that prison 9 years from now, shit, you'd think I was Vladimir Putin himself. But, that's just me. I always thought Russian was kind of interesting. I don't know. I think it was the movie Hunt for Red October that did it for me. But I always thought Russian and Chinese were interesting languages. Not so much Japanese, though. And I know people who actually bothered to start learning Japanese, but I just never really felt necessary to learn Japanese. And when I actually went to Japan, I realized real quickly I didn't need it. You could actually get around that place really easily with just English, because everybody pretty much speaks English. All right, so music. Oh, fuck. I'll say it just like this. If you want to be a music teacher in a public school or even a private school, music can be lucrative. But to get a music degree, that's a bad fucking idea. First of all, the vast majority of these people who've learned instruments and who've made money either playing in a band, a lot of these people didn't fucking study classical music. These people didn't go to college for music degrees. Most of these people are shit. And when you think about music, we're not just talking about guitars and pianos. We're talking about rappers. You don't need to go to no fucking college for that. You either got it or you don't. I mean, look at people like Bobby Shmurda. He said I've been selling crack since like since the 5th grade. And I'm like, well, he's been in jail for long. I think they let him out, but you don't need no goddamn you don't need no college degree to do no music. Music is basically just like art. You either have it or you don't. You don't need a college degree for it. If you want to teach music, you're going to probably need to go and get a content specialty in music. But for the most part, all you really need is to pass the teacher certification test, and you need a music content specialty test. But if you want to be fucking Metallica or some shit, no, you don't. Come on, really? You're just wasting money. Although there are great jobs to make a little bit of extra cash, they rarely manage to pay the bills. Careers with music are typically low paying and don't include benefits or a 401k. The result is that those who major in music look for a different career later. However, due to their limited degree in music, many find that they lack the type of education for which many employers are looking. I had an uncle, and the man was playing piano all his life, and he became extremely good at organs. He played for church. He hustled. He played funerals, weddings, whatever it was, piano and organ. He was excellent at it. Here's the problem, though. He wasn't the type, for whatever reason, to go to school. When he went to school, he fucked around, partied, all that, what is it called? Those fraternities and shit. Wasted a lot of fucking time, just like my friend with the art degree, with the film degree. Wasted a lot of time with the partying and these fucking fraternities. Me personally, I have no fraternity. I didn't go to school for that. I went to school to hurry the fuck up, get out, get my degree, and make some money. I didn't go to party, and I didn't go away to school. I told you the story. I went away looking for a college tour and looked at those HSBCs, and then I just ended up going to a local school and saving a ton of money. So I never had a fraternity. My uncle, however, he wasted a lot of time in the fraternities. He could have gotten himself a teaching degree, and he could have been an excellent music teacher, made himself money, a pension, and this, that, and the other. And he could have made a ton of money not having to hustle as hard as he did. He could have still played funerals on weekends. Because if you know anybody who's a music teacher, most of them, that's actually a very good skill, because there's always somebody who's looking for, a person to play piano or organ, especially with the church. That's actually a good skill, but the problem is, unless you know how to use that skill, it doesn't make you the money. So he did in his over the course of his life, I can't say he did poorly. I can say he did pretty well on it. I would say, however, he could have done way better. Had he been me, because see, me personally, I tried to learn piano. I wasn't any good at it. And I didn't practice this, that, and other. I think I could have been better at drums, but I don't know. I just didn't try that hard. Like, there's some people who just, especially if you do it at a young age, it's like you get really good at it. I don't know all that music theory stuff, like the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and all that stuff. I don't know none of that shit. I learned it, and I forgot it just as quickly. Now, if you ask me something about gravitational theory or physics or something, I can tell you about that. If you ask me something about aviation, about, why do airplanes have fuel tanks here instead of here? Like, I can explain all of that shit. But music, I forgot. As soon as that shit went in one ear, it went right out the other. Philosophy. Yeah, these people are wastes of fucking time. You know where you see your philosophers? You see them homeless on trains, yelling at people, drunk, homeless, usually homeless. The only people I've ever seen that make any money as philosophers are PhDs in college running the philosophy classes. That's it. But anyway, it says, today we live in an age where the study and use of science outlive the study and use of thought. Exactly. That's a beautiful way to put it. Today we live in an age where the study and use of science outlive, I think you're supposed to say outlives, the study and use of thought. Many jobs that are available on the market are related to science instead of thinking. I couldn't, that's beautiful. That's like poetry right there. Philosophy majors may be able to land a job as a philosophy professor after years of education and experience, or they can continue to receive education in a different field, such as law or writing. However, if you're dreaming of a stable job and income from a bachelor's in philosophy, you may want to consider a different field. Unless you're a college professor, philosophy is a waste of fucking time. And I know that there's a lot of philosophers out there who probably get mad at me, who are, they're listening to this and they're angry and they're spinning around in their cardboard box because they're fucking homeless because things just never clicked. But yeah, unless you are a college professor for philosophy, it's a waste of fucking time. Furthermore, I'd like to point out that as the student loan situation gets worse, a lot of these useless degree professors end up getting dropped. Now, the one thing that has saved philosophy professors is the fact that when you enter one of these schools, usually there's a liberal arts degree requirement. When you go into these classes, you have to get a certain number of degrees from these useless liberal arts classes for the most part. And some people criticize the fact that those extra courses are keeping you away from actually getting right into your degree. Now, can you do well in a philosophy class? Yeah, sure. You could get a fucking A in it. I took philosophy. I had a professor named Hux. He's probably dead now. Most of my professors are dead now because, I'm older and that was 20 years ago and they were already old. Very good guy. I got an A in his class. It was okay, but I also had one professor, I fucking hated that guy, and I can't even remember what his name was, nor do I care. In fact, I actually got up out of his class. I got up, took my stuff, walked out, never came back, and I withdrew from the class. And I was fortunate enough to do it on the last day when you get like a W, and a W means you withdrew from a class officially. But nah, man, it's a waste of fucking time. And sure enough, by streamlining my courses, because when I thought to myself, you know what, the major that I'm in, I think this major is a waste of fucking time. So I'm going to change my major and I'm going to graduate quicker. Sure enough, I did. I started school in 1999 and I graduated by 2005. I might have done a year earlier if I hadn't changed my major. But I also spent time outside the country in China. I spent at least 2 semesters away from the country because I did Chinese here, but I also did it in China itself at Fudan University. Bottom line is, philosophy is a waste of fucking time. If you want to learn like Plato and Socrates and shit, listen, we've got plenty of stuff where you can read about these people at home on your iPhone, on your iPad. You do not need to take out loans for that shit. Psychology, huge waste of money. First of all, as you're learning, in fact, there was a therapist who just lost her job because she was posting TikToks and she was insulting the very people who are supposed to be sitting in her chair that she's supposed to be giving therapy to. She's insulting them. Or at least she thinks that she wasn't, but I think she's fucking crazy because when I saw the video, from what I saw, the girl was unstable and it was a girl. And it says, if you're considering a degree in psychology, be sure to consider how many schools you want to complete and what you want to do with your degree once you've finished. If you're looking at a specific field, you may be better suited and more hireable by pursuing a different degree. Psychology, unless you are, what do they call it, a clinical psychologist, says psychologists often pursue higher education. They have no choice. Now, listen, that's not to say that if you want to teach psychology, you can get a psychology degree and you can get a content specialty in it. But it's really hard to get classes like this like you basically have to be high school level or even college level. Like I've had psychology teachers. They were great people. But the reality is, first of all, a lot of people who especially getting these fucking PhD degrees. Let me explain something to you. And I know there's probably PhD holders who are listening to the sound of my voice and they're clenching their fists and they're angry. Let me explain something to you. PhDs are supposed to be for people who want to be teachers of teachers. If I'm a PhD holder, I should be able to take somebody who doesn't understand anything about this field, and I should be able to train that person to basically be me. Teachers of teachers, professors of professors. That's what a real PhD can do. When I see a person who's a PhD in nuclear physics who can sit you down and explain to you how a nuclear reactor works and how atoms move, and that's one thing. But when you got these fuckers and by the way, that the last story I did about this principal, they said that she was getting a doctorate, right? Let me tell you something. If you're getting a doctorate and you don't intend on training teachers, you're a waste of fucking time. Now, that doesn't apply to everything. I'm talking mostly about these ed doctorates. Let you in on a little secret, and I know somebody's not going to like what I'm saying, and I don't care. There's a lot of people who have such low self-esteem that it's absolutely paramount to them that they get certain degrees because they need you to refer to them by that. They want to be called doctor. Let me tell you something. If you can't repair a broken bone and you can't set, if I get a dislocation, you can't set it, or if I get a cut and you can't patch it, or if I need surgery and you can't and give me surgery, fuck that. I'm not calling you doctor. Okay? You're either a medical doctor or you're not. Now, if you're like Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson and you can help shuttles land and take off and shit, or you can point out, where you have to fly to get the maximum gravitational pull in order to get around the moon. Okay, that's different. Yeah, Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, no problem. But if you're one of these motherfuckers who just went to school for some ed doctorate bullshit in your women's studies and your liberal arts nonsense, I'm not calling you doctor ever. That happened to me while I was in college. I was playing football when I was in college, and I broke my right ring finger. And I didn't know it was broken. I should have known right away it was broken because it was literally pointing to the fucking left. And it was swollen, so it was kind of hard to tell. So anyway, we had this college class. It was in our, what class was that? It was Anthropology 101 or something like that. And the teacher brings in this guy who calls himself a doctor. So as soon as he was finished giving his long speech, his long-winded philosophical speech, I run up to him and I'm like, yeah, doctor, yeah, listen, I was playing football the other day and I think I hurt my finger right here and I just need you to look at it and see if it's broken. Because here I am. Now, I was a younger person. I was thinking, oh, well, he's a doctor. He must know what the fuck is going on. Sure enough, judging from the looks of it, we look for heat and we look for motion and swell. And I'm looking at this guy, I'm like, what the fuck? I thought you were a doctor. Sure enough, turns out he's just some fucking doctor of like either philosophy or ed doctor or some shit. I was like, how fucking useless is that? I got a finger here that's broken. So sure enough, I ended up having to go to the real doctor. He took a needle. And you remember in Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Running Man, where they took that needle and they stuck that shit right into his fucking hand, like the web of his fingers? God damn. When I saw him getting ready to put that needle in there, I was like, oh my God, let me try to stay calm. So basically what he's doing is he's blocking the nerves so that you don't feel the pain of him getting ready to relocate the bone. But God damn it, I'll never forget that shit. And I'll also never forget when I lost respect for doctors who aren't real doctors. So in any event, and I know there's people who really hate to hear me say that because anytime I say that, people get mad. Well, guess what? You just gonna have to be mad because I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just like how they say psychology isn't really a science. In order for something to qualify as a science, you have to be able to test it using the scientific method. Typically, that means that there has to either be people aren't the same. The human brain, nobody has the same brain. Therefore, a lot of the theories that they come up with will always remain in the realm of theory. So there are some people who argue that psychology isn't really a science. Now, for financial purposes, there are people who argue it is. But for the most part, a lot of people say psychology really isn't a science. Now, you could say it's a human-based behavioral science, but nah. Physics, biology, chemistry, geology, those are sciences. There are others, but psychology just ain't one of them. I'm sorry. All right, next. Studio arts and fine art. Well, I think I've already been over this. If you're going to get an art degree, just understand that chances are you're going to probably end up homeless, okay? So I'm just going to skip past that. Theater arts. Okay, listen, we need actors. You know what's funny? I just got finished watching a Steven Seagal movie. It's called Born to Raise Hell. And near the end of, he's not even, I guess it's the end of his career, but this guy makes these movies in these foreign European countries with these like no-named Serbs and these no-named Croatian and these no-named Slavic actors. And I watch Steven Seagal movies and I fucking love them. And especially when there's a guy who's got a gun but decides to do hand-to-hand combat for whatever reason, and then Steven Seagal beats the shit out of him. I love those movies. And I saw this movie, and then I saw this other movie with Mel Gibson. It's called Dragged Across Concrete. And that was some violent shit, but I liked the movie. It was a pretty good movie. And I was telling people, yeah, y'all should give this a shot because it's on HBO. It's free. But we need actors. Problem is, it's typically a low-paying job unless you're at the top of the top. It's not easy to be a high-paid actor. But my thing is, do you really need a college degree to act? I think I could act with no college degree. I believe I could pull it off. But would I ever spend the money to go to college for it? No. I think a lot of it really comes down to networking. Last one, I think, travel and tourism. Holy shit, they saved the best for last. Now, you know me, I love travel, I love tourism. Sounds fun, right? Even though this degree might have the glitz and glamour of travel and getaway, the end result of this useless degree isn't so appealing. During their education, students who study travel and tourism learn about the best places to What? Methods of getting there? I could do that on Expedia. And how to improve the tourist experience? Although these classes are more entertaining than most, many students who graduate with a travel and tourism degree are left unsure of the next step after graduation. Students who graduate with a travel and tourism degree have limited job options after they finish school. Although many enter the field hoping to make it big as an Instagram travel, or professional vlogger, the result is that many end up taking boring and mundane office jobs. Some may choose to work as a travel agent, while others may take a job as someone who helps others book plane tickets, hotels, cruises through private companies. As with many of the other most useless degrees, these jobs tend to be a poor source of income, inconsistent hours, and workers aren't always treated well. If you graduated with a travel and tourism degree but are looking to leave the field, finding a job is difficult. You may have cool stories and fun experiences to share, but employers looking for that degree will be disappointed. I will say this. We have the technology. Right here from the phone that I'm holding, right now I'm talking shit into this iPhone. And all I got to do is navigate to an app, and in less than 5 minutes, I can book a flight anywhere in the world, sans tourist agent. I don't need a tourist agent. Now, there are bilingual, multilingual people who may be of high requirement simply because the people who want to book trips can't do it easily on their own. I can understand that. But I didn't even expect that travel and tourism would be the most useless degree here. I really didn't expect that. So all I can say is that if anybody can do it, if a lot of people can do something, then chances are it's not going to make you much money. The only way for you to make sure that you get a job that you can be comfortable doing, that you can be happy doing maybe, that you can get your degree, your health care, your pension, that you don't go into much student debt, or a job that pays you enough to get out of student debt. The bottom line is you have to find a niche. You have to find something that you can do that not a lot of other people apply to. Like, for example, I have a cousin, and his mother forced him to take instruments, wind instruments, and I think he had to take string instruments. But he was able to get a scholarship by playing trombone. Not many people play trombone. I think there's a couple of other instruments not a lot of people go into, but for the most part, he got a scholarship for being a trombone player. And If you find a niche, that is really what helps you. You can't join something that a lot of other people do. You have to set yourself apart. It takes a lot of study. It may take 1 or 2 degrees, but the bottom line is, in order for you to make that money, you got to find something that not a lot of other people can do. This is competition. That's what this is. A lot of y'all don't even know or understand who Charles Darwin was because you didn't pay attention in fucking school. But the bottom line is, we're all in competition. Even when I go outside and get in my car and drive through fucking traffic, that's competition. More people means more competition. Less people means less competition. So that means more people, it takes me longer to get to what I want to do. Less people, takes me less time to get to what I want to. Everything's competition. When I go to the store, sometimes my favorite ice cream is sold out. Well, that's competition. I have to get there before they do and buy it. College, you need to think of these things as competition. And unfortunately, I can't blame you because what I've noticed is these liberals have done everything they could to take competition out of the system. They have made you less competitive. I wake up every single day at 5 o'clock, sometimes 4. No alarm clock, ready to get up, ready to be the early bird that gets the worm. A lot of y'all live close to your fucking jobs and you still get there late. You know what that says? That says that you're not competitive. To your boss, that says you're not competitive. It says you don't care. It says you're not competitive. Competition is the thing that we lack more than anything. And all of this comes down to competition. Yeah, you can get a job as a tourist agent. You can get a job as a philosophy teacher, but only if there's not that many other people trying to get that job. If you go for these easy-ass courses and these easy-ass classes, chances are you're not competing that much. And by being non-competitive, you're going to be making that same bullshit salary that you're making now. If you're making a salary, you ain't going to have no pension. You ain't going to have no health care. And you ain't going to have no retirement either. Unless you retool yourself to be competitive, well, you're just going to be working minimum wage. You're just going to be taking the bus to work. You're just going to be taking the train to work, hoping that nobody pushes you on the tracks because the violence is out of hand in some places. Meanwhile, I'm going to be driving around in an electric Cadillac that I plug up into my house. You're going to be renting. You're going to be a renter. You're going to be a permanent renter. This system is pretty much seen to that. You're going to be a permanent renter taking the bus to work. And I'm going to be driving around in an electric Cadillac, retired. You are in direct competition with me. You are in direct competition with everybody around you. And until you understand that, until you start thinking that way, until you decide to go to school and work hard and study instead of going for these fucking bullshit degrees, or instead of hanging out at the fraternity hall, or instead of hanging out at the party with the beer kegs and all that shit, while you're running up student loans. Well, that's just it. You need to compete. And if you're not ready to compete, then until you get yourself in the mentality of being ready for competition, chances are you shouldn't be taking out no loans.